Tess, rumor has it you've made vacation envy a real thing here in Whitefish.
Guilty as charged. At Outside Metro, we've got everything from cozy downtown lofts to Lakeview retreats, even barns with pickleball courts. And with over 500 five-star reviews, you really can't go wrong.
What? Okay, I'm already packing my bags.
Just make sure you book direct, Julie, and save on those booking fees at outsidemetro.com. That's where the good stuff happens.
Done. Outside Metro. And stay where the locals play. The IWD406 Podcast, where Montana women are heard, celebrated, and supported. Today, I'm sitting down with Amanda Diehl, founder of Sky Oro, a Montana-based community and co-working space designed to bring ambitious women into meaningful in-person connection as they build businesses and navigate life transitions. Amanda didn't just create a space, she built a movement. After raising over $250,000 from founding members to bring this vision to life, she has spent the past 7 years cultivating something deeper, a model where relationships fuel growth, courage, and real momentum. As a mother and a CEO, she is passionate about helping women stop building alone and start rising alongside others who see them. I love that. Challenge them and champion them. So let's get into it with Amanda Diehl. How are you, Amanda?
I'm so good. Thanks for having me today, Julie.
Oh, I am beyond honored. As for those that are listening, Amanda is a fierce leader, and I went down to Bozeman to go introduce myself to her and stumbled upon Sky Oro, and it's one of the most spectacular places for women to gather and build their businesses. So thank you so much for providing something like that for our communities. It's really remarkable, Amanda. Do you realize that? Like, it's a remarkable space.
I do. I have to pinch myself almost weekly that this is the work that I get to do, because I am blown away by the women that come in here who are either members or they are friends of members or they're guests or a friend told them to come, and they share with me the ideas that they have. And my jaw drops. Like my whole body gets excited and giddy, and I lean in and I'm just like, oh, tell me more. How I want to be part of what you're doing. And it's infectious. And yeah, it's an honor. It's the honor of my life to be doing this work.
I love that. And we're going to get into all things Sky Oro. But first and foremost, my first question that I usually ask is, are you a true Montanan, born and raised?
Yes. While I live in Bozeman and I bleed blue and gold, I was born in Missoula, and I have spent a lot of time in Bozeman. My grandparents lived here. My mom was from here. My dad is from Townsend. And I actually spent the majority of my upbringing in Helena. But like, we lived in Alaska too. So I'm an Alaska, Montana girl, but was born here, and my family roots are very deep in this state.
Wow. So are you second, third? What's the generation? Like,
as far as I can tell, and
yes.
I haven't looked at the genealogy that my grandma spent a lot of time on, I am at least 4, but I'm pretty sure it's 4. Yeah.
So my question is then, maybe if you don't have the genealogy, which is totally fine, it seems like a little fun fact to throw out there into the world, but it seems like a lot of people that migrated to the U.S. during that stage of life, everybody's coming in and out now, but back in the day where people were looking to come over and settle in Montana, they usually came through the railroad lines into Great Falls. So most likely there was probably a link to Great Falls, but I'm also hearing now that people settled in Helena. I'm like, how the heck did they get to Helena? Was there like a railroad system?
No, Last Chance Gulch. They were up there digging for gold.
Unreal. Yeah. So now I'm learning. Every time I interview somebody or talk with somebody that's generational and they have an understanding of their ancestors, they're like, no, they didn't settle in Great Falls. I'm like, wait a minute. How did they get to Helena? So it's really cool though. But that's awesome that you're a true Montanan, which means you have grit, resilience, all the things. But I want to hear a little bit about growing up in Montana. What was that like?
It was fun. I said my dad grew up on a farm in Townsend. And so we went there every single summer. And he had a big family, a lot of siblings. They all had kids. And so every summer, my core memories are I don't think it happened this way, but being dropped off at the farm, and my grandma took care of us, and there were like 10 of us running wild, and at least one of my aunts was there helping manage the madness. And we moved pipe, we learned how to ride dirt bikes, we worked in the garden, we were out mending fences, we were throwing poop at each other, climbing in the field, like
Okay.
up in the barns, just like running wild. And it was the best. I wish so badly that I could provide that. Like that was the life my little boys are living right now. Unfortunately, it's much more civilized here in Bozeman.
Right.
But Bozeman used to be the cow town too. But yeah, that was what it was like. And I lived in Helena. We lived in Alaska, like I talked about. And I was really young when we moved up to Alaska. We were there for about 6 or 7 years, then came back to Montana. And we lived in Lincoln, and my mom was just always avid. We are going to be outside. We're going to be outside. And that was her happy place. It was her sanity place. And so we were just outside. That's all I ever remember. If we were fighting, my mom was like, you have enough energy to fight. You have enough energy to hike. We're going up Mount Helena. And that's that.
You know what? That's good though, because I'm from the Midwest. My mom would be like, if you're up, you go outside. You go run around outside. See, I didn't have the playground like you have. I didn't have the ability to go run off the energy except for circles on a flat plane. So you guys had the opportunity to get out there, go fishing, go explore a mountain, go be around a bunch of nature, bunch of things that could potentially eat you, which is remarkable. Good. Kudos to your family. That's wonderful. So now where did you go to school at?
Interesting. Probably, it definitely has an impact on my life. So in Alaska, I remember going to kindergarten, and then my mom homeschooled me from first grade through third grade. Partway through third grade, I went to school. We had actually moved back to Montana, and I went to school for half of a year in school in East Helena. And then my mom moved me to a Seventh-day Adventist like school in the basement of a church for my fourth grade year. Fifth grade, I went to a Catholic school.
Wow.
Sixth grade, I went to another non-denominational Christian school. Seventh grade, I went back to that Catholic school. Actually, the beginning of seventh grade, I was back up in Alaska because my dad went back up there. And then I got homesick, came back to Montana, back to the Catholic school. Eighth grade, went the whole year up in Alaska with my dad. And then my mom was like, you are not running around. We lived on a tiny island out on the Aleutian chain. And she's like, you're not running around on that island in high school. I know what happens up there. I lived there. She made me come back to Montana. So then I went to high school in Helena. So
Did you go to private or public high school?
Public. Yeah. Capitol High, Bruins in Helena.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So you had majority of your life, majority of upbringing was raised either homeschool or public or private, which it can be an interesting. My kids were private and then homeschooled and then went to public, but public in a small rural community. But that smallness, like you probably didn't go have a very big community of schoolers, right? Or was it a pretty large private? Did you have a lot of population at some of these private schools that you went to?
They were all in Helena.
They were all in Helena. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, like when I was in fourth grade, the Seventh-day Adventist, it was like there were maybe 12 of us, and it represented first grade through eighth grade. So there were kids of all different, and one teacher for all of it.
Wow.
Yeah, then the Catholic school was a bit larger. The other private Christian school was a bit larger, but not more than like 100 kids. Yeah.
And the cool thing about that experience, just throwing this out there, you got to bebop around and meet different people. So you got to exposure to all different types, plus go back to Alaska. That's a whole different ball game up there. And then come back down to Montana where your roots are. So your adaptability seemingly is you can easily talk to anybody.
Yeah, I have no problems with
No
that.
problems. Yes, I know. Yes,
Yeah.
which is wonderful. That's wonderful.
I just find people so interesting.
Yeah.
Everyone has such a powerful story, and everyone wants to share their story. And so I feel like it's a gift to be able to listen to them. And yeah.
Oh, I love that. Going through high school, you landed in Helena. And then what was your high school experience like?
It was fun. I had a core group of friends and I worked a lot because it was on me to buy the new clothes. If I wanted a car, I was paying for all of it. So I always had at least one job, usually one and a half or two. And I also like to have, I didn't play sports. I think I discounted myself out of that because I broke my leg on the farm the year before my freshman year of high school, and I couldn't
Yeah.
try out for the volleyball team. And then I was like, man, it's just not for me. So I just liked to work and I liked to party. And so every once in a while I was in trouble. But for the most part, I really just I had fun and I had fun with my friends and I lived it up in Helena while also feeling like Helena was such a boring place and Montana was such a boring state and nothing cool ever happened in Montana and nobody even knew that Montana was a real place. Like I was so not, yeah, I was like, what is this? Where am I growing up?
Right. And I think I'm from the smack dab middle, kind of middle west of Illinois, which is nothing. I'm not near Chicago. So it's
Yeah.
not like I can go play in Chicago and have fun. We'd have to drive there to go
Yeah.
play and have fun. I felt the same way as you. I didn't really appreciate that small town-esque rural community. And then as I'm now 50 years old, I'm looking back and going, that's great. That was fun. Like the simplicity of life, because once you
Yeah.
get in the rat race, everything feels like it's spinning and out of control a lot. And we long deeply for, as we get older, my personal opinion is we long for that slowing down. And because life gets pretty busy. But going back now, looking back in your high school years, were you like, okay, I'm getting out of this town, I'm leaving. Where do I want to go? Where did you end up deciding to go for college?
I didn't even apply for college until the couple weeks after I graduated from high school. Initially, I was like, I want to go to the U of M. Maybe I would become a lawyer because I liked to argue with my mom a lot.
Yes,
And
good.
then I had this high school boyfriend who actually was in Bozeman, and you could come to Bozeman, you could do your pre-law stuff, and then you could go to Missoula. And I was like, sure, why not? So I applied and I ended up getting in and came to Bozeman. And yeah, I was excited to be here though, because my grandmother had taught nursing at MSU. I'd grown up like loving coming to Bozeman, but I just never, I don't know, never took the thought of college seriously in high school. I just wanted a job. I wanted to work. I wanted to make money. And then, yeah, like I never even applied to University of Montana. I only applied to
Really?
MSU and ended up here.
Wow. Okay, your grandma was a nurse. Was she a nurse in Helena?
She lived in Bozeman. At that point in my life, she lived in Bozeman and she was a nurse here at Bozeman Deaconess and she taught nursing for a couple years at MSU. She
So
ended up, yeah.
did you want to, because of that influence, did you want to do nursing, or were you, listen, Amanda, when I was during that time frame, I'm like, I hope I can get even into a college, because I did have a lot of fun in high school. And I think I didn't really take school as seriously as I should have. But I thought to myself, okay, I didn't want to be disappointed if I couldn't get in. So I did do like the state school and go, okay, I'm just going to apply at that and see what happens. And I really don't know what I want to do. And
Yeah.
so I pursued art, which I thought to myself, what am I even going to do with that? I was a lot like you during that pivotal transitional phase. And for me, I looking back at it, and I want to just get your thoughts on this. And for moms that have kids that are like, they don't know what they want to do. I think
Yeah.
my brother had his whole life planned out. And then I looked at him and go, I don't know what the hell I want to do. And at 18, 19 years old, I dragged my feet a bit and then was like, I'll just do art. I don't really have anything else to fall back on. I don't know what I want to do. And I'm a floater. Were you in that same mindset? Or was there anything that was holding you back from pursuing what you maybe wanted to do or pursue? Or where were you at in that time frame in your head?
Yeah. I think I had this idea that I would do something that would end up taking me to law school. But
You knew you wanted to do law. You knew it.
I thought that was my initial, I never was like, I'm going to be a lawyer. I was
Yeah.
like, I argue with my mom a lot. I like to argue. I'm good at it. Like maybe
Yes,
I
right.
should just be a lawyer. And I remember when I got to MSU, I didn't claim a major. In fact, I didn't claim a major until I think 2.5 years or 3 years into school. And I didn't ever feel that pressure. I do remember my first semester, my mom came to visit and I was like, I don't think this is for me. It was a tough transition, just mentally and emotionally. And I didn't know what I wanted to do. I was like, maybe I'll just join the army. And she was like, I think maybe just give it a little time.
Yes. Yeah.
And I met some great friends through my dorm experience, and it was just wonderful to meet them. And then of course I met my first college boyfriend, and I was like, okay, I do enjoy going to school and learning, and I enjoyed the environment. I just didn't really know what at that point. As I'm thinking back, I'm like, yeah, there wasn't a lot of directionality. Then I learned about studying abroad. And so in my second year of school, I was like, I want to study abroad. So then I went abroad the first semester of my third year, still hadn't claimed a major. So here's where hadn't claimed a major. That was in 2008. Went over to England with a friend of mine, partied, got in some trouble. The economy crashed, and we were both like, maybe we should go back to Montana.
Yes.
Oh, and we did. And then I was like, all right, Amanda, you need to take something seriously. So I just went into the school. The general counselor was like, here's everything I've taken. What makes sense for me to head towards? And they were like, not really nursing, not really this. Maybe you could go into the health and human development school, because I had taken classes like that stacked there, and ultimately ended up landing on health promotion as my major. And then it took me 1.5 years to finish that up. So I was 5th-year student. And once I landed on that, I was like, this feels somewhat in alignment, but it wasn't like, I want to have this job, I want to do this or this. It was like, what have I naturally gravitated towards in terms of, and I'll be honest, one of those classes was a billiards class. One of them was one I took because my friend was taking it, but I took econ and I was like, that is not at all how I want to spend my time. I think I took an organic chemistry class and I was like, no. So I just went where at that point my interests had funneled me to. But like I said, partied a little too hard for a lot of my younger life. That ended up impacting a job that I had that I lost because I was being irresponsible. I'll just leave it at that. And I was working at a restaurant here in Bozeman. And when I lost that job, I was like, okay, I need to find something else, which ultimately led me to getting involved with the student body at MSU. And my 5th year of school, I was elected as the student body vice president. And that was like my first foray into leadership. And I really enjoyed that. And so much of it, right? Like the responsibility of it felt fun and exciting. And I took it very seriously. The people that I got to work with, I was like, man, these students care deeply. They're really fun to be around. I'm learning a lot. And so I just really enjoyed that experience. And it stroked my ego too. I was proud of what happened. Like we were the student body that approved the build of the new Bobcat Stadium. And right when Waded came in as the new president. And so it was just really fun. There was a lot of things happening. And in that same year, I did an internship for my major that ultimately led to my first real job, air quotes around that, after college, which set me up on, okay, I understand a bit more about what I would like to be doing.
So. Yeah. And I want to back up just a little bit because you made a really good point. I think, and you probably see this often within your business and working with women in that networking piece, right? Sometimes it takes a bit of time for many of us to find what lights us up. And I'm looking at kind of some patterns for you. Obviously, people and their stories and how they get inspired in what they do. And you are a champion for them. You rally them So there was a human component that you were seeking at that time, right?
Yeah.
And maybe it's within yourself. And Amanda, we all partied. I partied freaking hard. My parents would not be very proud of me of all the things that I did, but I had a good time. I don't look back and go, I regret that. Maybe a couple things, but overall, I'm like, I was probably a lot like you, where I'm like, if you're a partier and having fun, you're rallying. You're getting people excited. And you were the type of person back in the day. And if those classes lit you up, similar to what I did as well, because I think we both majored and we ended up getting our masters, which we'll talk about, very similar master's programs that we went through, which is surrounding people. And then it sounds like to me, what really got you with this vice president position for the student body is you still have to champion people. You are a champion for people and getting and seeing their potential, which is a little bit of an insight for those that are listening into what she does today. And I often get these, when I have these conversations, I'm looking for little glimpse of the things in your life that really truly have inspired you to do the things that you're doing today. And we'll get into that. But I want to talk a little bit about these impactful moments and when you got your first job. What was your first job? Was it in public health?
Oh, after school. It's like my
After
way
school.
back when.
No, your first job after college.
Yeah. So it was with the Western Dairy Association had partnered with the NFL, and it's still a program, but to put together a program called Fuel Up to Play 60.
Yes.
And the premise of the program is that it is basically a playbook or a toolkit of resources that schools can use to, you're going to love this, from the ground up build programs that help kids become more involved in their nutrition, more involved in physical activity, more involved in making decisions that impact their health at the middle school, elementary school, high school level. And at that point in 2011, there were some big changes to school nutrition requirements, that there were a lot of frustrations and pushbacks from schools because it was massively shifting the way that they needed to offer food. And so a good example is like now they had to have certain amounts of vegetables, certain amounts of fruit, etc. And they were like, we're going to buy this food. These kids are not going to eat it. They're going to throw it away. And so part of the program is, okay, how can we like put it in the kids' hands? Like some of the schools would use the program and the funds from the program to make a smoothie station, right? So instead of just pouring fruit the kids aren't going to eat, it's like the kids could come in, they could choose their fruit, they could build their own smoothies, things like that. Some schools use the program and there were plays inside of this. So a school could say, we want to do a school garden. And the biggest part of the program was that my role was to identify the champions in schools around Montana who wanted to champion this program in their school. So I would go pitch the program to the school, talk to them, see who would be potentially a good fit, because oftentimes it wasn't the administration, right? They're just trying to make sure that they hit all of their marks. It would be like a teacher or an aide or somebody who wanted to make a difference. And then that person would be able to put together a team of students that helped make the program happen. And so the students would get to choose, oh, we want to do a smoothie station, or we want to do a school garden, or we want to do, this at recess, or have these programs. So it was very much like community buy-in for behavior change in a time when government regulations were changing. And so schools were just having a hard time keeping up with it. So it was a really innovative program in that it didn't want to put all this pressure on admin. It put this pressure, or it created a pathway for other champions in the schools to make things happen that brought resources in, that brought funding in, that brought like community together, and also helped kids have a very different experience with being healthy, making healthy choices, feeling the impact of how good it feels to eat a smoothie for lunch versus whatever else they were choosing. And so that was my first job. It was very part-time. I was a consultant I didn't know what I was doing, but for my internship at the end of that year, I helped put on the Montana Behavior Initiative conference at MSU, which is an annual conference for educators around the state. And I introduced and facilitated the woman who introduced the Fuel Up to Play 60 program to this whole conference. And at the end, she was like, "And we're hiring." And I was like, "Say what?" And I applied and I got it. So that was my
amazing.
first job. Yeah.
And you know what? Again, you rallied. You
Yeah.
rallied those people. You knew how to say from the heart what is needed, and then you got buy-in,
Yeah.
which is really cool. Again, more little bit going backwards in time. You're a rallier, girl. You are a rallier, and I don't even know if that's even a word, but that's really important. And to get people to buy into a concept or an idea without a, and obviously now we've got, okay, if you have a smoothie for lunch, it's going to be better than eating a bowl of Fruit Loops or some really bad, horrible sandwich from McDonald's. And I'm assuming that was back in 2009 timeframe where we're on the cusp of the idea of shifting our diets and doing all the things. That's a hard sell. You're selling a concept plus trying to get people to champion for the whole impact project, essentially. So that's really cool. Very cool. So then having that first time experience, and then you applied for this job, and then did you tell me a little bit about that experience? And then I want to talk a little bit pursuing your master's degree as well.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, so I'm thinking back on some of the, I spun my wheels a lot, I'll be honest, because like I didn't already have these connections across the state. I had a few key connections that I leaned into, but there was a lot of time when I was like, I don't know what I'm doing, but I just continued showing up. But I did spin my wheels a lot, and I felt sometimes almost out of integrity because I would spend time thinking and trying to figure out what my next steps would be, but there wasn't really a pathway laid out for me. And then I would report my hours and I'm like, here's what I did, but I don't have a lot to show for it because I spun my wheels a lot. And it's funny because now, there is not a path charted for me right now. I am very much bushwhacking it in the way that I'm building this. So some fun parallels, but I would drive across the state. So when I would make a connection or when I would learn about a conference that was happening, I would apply to speak and I would go. So I drove across the state to meet with schools. I drove across the state to attend conferences to learn. I drove across the state to support and promote. When I finally did have a couple of schools that were implementing it, I would go to those schools. And now one was in Belt, one was in Billings. And I feel like there was at least one other that I got the programs off the ground. Yeah. And so I just found places to continue to plug in. And at the same time, I joined the Montana Action for Healthy Kids Coalition, which is a nonprofit. And within the first couple months, I think my second meeting, this is so funny to remember. They were like, so our leader is going on maternity leave and we need somebody to step into her shoes. And my hand just shot up and I literally had no idea what this even was. And I was like, oh, it can't be that hard. So I did that for a few years too, before ending up leaving when I went to grad school. But you asked the question of how did this land me in grad school? There was a school, I'm going to call it School Lunch Lady Conference in Great Falls, I think it was.
Okay.
And I was sharing Fuel Up to Play 60 as a presenter with a bunch of women who had been the lunch crew at schools for years and years. And they're up against, we have to make these changes. It's really frustrating. It's a totally new way of operating. And I had one woman raise her hand and she was like, I am so excited about this program, but I know that I'm going to take it back to my administration and they're going to shoot me down. And I don't remember where the conversation went after that, but in that moment, I remember getting emotional. I was like, what? You would be showing up here and you want to do all of this for these kids and your administration is going to shut you down? That doesn't compute for me. And I remember the dots that I connected. So I'm the oldest of 11 kids. And I was like, all of my siblings are still going to school. And if they were in a school where their administration didn't care to do something differently that would affect their health, that just got me. And I remember being like, that's it. I'm going back to school to affect school policy around in the health realm, which is When I graduated with my undergrad, I was like, what the hell am I going to do with a public health degree? Like,
Yeah.
who do you even make any? Am I ever going to pay my student loans back? And I remember having that thought, and I was like, someday I'll go back to school. And this someday ended up being 3 years later. I was like, okay, I'm going to take this seriously. And that's when I started applying for public health programs to a number of schools around the country.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, so cool, because I love that. It's that moment that you remember where an injustice is in play, right? And
Yeah.
we have to do something about that. I love that because that's how change happens. And to have that passion ignite within you, and you're like, screw it, I'm going to go get my master's degree, which is not an easy undertaking. Let's just be honest. That's a lot of work. And most of the time it's a night. I don't know if you had master's school classes at night. You're like working during the day and then doing classes at night. It's like a whole thing. And that's what my experience was. I was like, this is a big undertaking. I did not even think this through when I signed up, but I just knew I had to do it. So as you were in your master's program and learning about policy, essentially, that's a whole different area to learn about.
Yeah.
What were some of the things that you like were aha moments for you?
It was an interesting time to be in grad school because it was for public health, because it was when the Affordable Care Act had just been passed. And so there was just I remember a lot of conversation around just how policy is made and the change. And I remember thinking like, wow, this is a very historical time to be in this program. And then there was an Ebola outbreak in Africa or wherever that was, somewhere over in Africa in 2014, I think.
Yes.
Because I started that program in 2013. And so that was fascinating to just be in the School of Public Health and having these real-time conversations about epidemics and massive policy change. And I got to dig into some of the behind the scenes behind like the big public health movements around tobacco having to be labeled and the money and the just like treachery of it. And then just learning like what public health, all of it was. Two funny things. One of the questions I always had was, so public health is like essentially the policy, it's the structure, it's the movements around things that masses of people do, right? So like seatbelt laws, helmet laws, no smoking inside, no soda at school, all of those things. It's like you see the impact and it's measurable when millions of people are acting in alignment with whatever the public health law is or what is being done in the realm of public health. And I was always like, okay, if it's about how all of these people are acting, at what point do we start talking about the individual choices, right? Because each one of those millions of people had to make an individual choice to abide or do whatever. So that was always an interesting thing for me to be thinking about, which is so much of what I do today, right?
Yes. Yes.
One woman is more resourced, feels more support, feels like her ripple effect goes out and affects her whole entire family, which goes and affects their whole entire community, which affects the community at large. One woman makes more money or is choosing to put herself first, like so much is impacted. So that's an interesting parallel. I could never have fathomed that this is the way I would be working in public health, because being in Minnesota and the state that it is in the public health realm, or the state that it was, I always thought I'd go into like public health service, epidemiology, whatever. I would also always get asked about vaccinations. And I was like, don't want to have that conversation. My sister was autistic. My mom went down the rabbit hole, like the vaccination thing. It was just a hot topic button for me. And there still wasn't much research to prove anything in any direction. And then I ended up with my first official job out of public health school, working for a company that built immunization registry databases.
Yeah, so that's interesting.
It is
that is an interesting, because here's why. I want you to talk a little bit about the fact that what you did with that job, because I think it's important. I love these pieces, Amanda. these aspects of your life. It's very historical referencing, but also how things developed and how we captured records and how we know who is doing what and how it's impacting all of our communities. Speak about that, because you had to do some rallying. You've got a data system that you've got to basically implement. And then you've got nurses and staff and hospital systems that are like another thing that we have to do, right?
Yeah.
How did you rally? Which again, this is part of who you are, girl. This is the gifts you've been given, which is freaking cool. But
Yeah.
how did you rally to get to build bridges essentially with that job?
I remember in my interview, so I'll talk about what the role was that I got hired for, but in my interview, I knew that I was applying for a consultant position. Again, that consultant word of making our own path, that was in Helena. So I came from Minnesota, where I went to grad school, moved back to Montana, moved to Helena. And when I can't remember what the question was, but it was something like, how do we know that, or tell us about a time when you like were willing to get down in the weeds and do the work? Because that's what this role required. I had also spent, in parallel to school, in parallel to grad school, in parallel to my time as like the student body vice president, whatever, I was in the service industry. So I learned how to serve and wait tables when I was 16 at IHOP, because IHOP opened in Helena, gave me like all the corporate training. And service industry, serving people, taking care of people. And in Bozeman, I worked at a restaurant called The Bay, and I worked there for a really long time. And you always have to jump in and help. And the way that I answered the question was like, I'm not afraid to get into the dish pit when I know that if I can help the guy in the dish pit, it means I'm going to have clean glasses at the bar. It means my customers are going to be served in a much more timely manner. It means that everything for everybody is just going to run more smoothly. And I understand that when you are forging a path, you have to be willing to do all tasks and not feel like I'm above this. And so that was like my attitude going in. Also an attitude of service and curiosity. As I was growing up on the farm in Bozeman, up in the mountains where my mom grew up, I watched my grandparents on both sides welcome people into their home without question, wondering how they could serve them, feeding them when maybe they barely had enough food to feed themselves. It was just like always wondering how they can serve. And so that was just like my approach is, okay, how can I put what I've learned to good use? I want to make a difference. I understand impact. Public health is all about impact. And so that was the attitude that I came into it with. I was hired to support health departments in the implementation of receiving electronic vaccination data from clinics. Now, those clinics were like the people sending the data were the nurses. They are putting the shot, entering the data, sending it off. This required a lot of really like, you had to put in where cold storage, where did the shot come from? Who is the manufacturer? What's the lot number, expiration date? All that had to be manually entered. We were trying to move it towards a place of automation, but we had to work with them to help get them on board for why they would be submitting this stuff. The reason they'd be submitting this stuff is because if they didn't submit this information, they couldn't get vaccines to serve their populations. That also meant that we had to be working with the EHRs, like Epic or not WebMD. I can't even remember any of the other names, but they are like the tech account managers who are just trying to make sure that these systems can be implemented in the clinic. But they also I had to be speaking with, okay, the Epic guy, the gal at the community health department or community health center, and then how we're receiving the data at the health department, and is all of it coming through, and is all of it accurate and valid? And it was just like this triangulation of different values, different goals, different reasons for doing what they were doing, different ways of operating, different ways of communicating. And I had to just figure out how to operate at the center of that. But more than that, I had to figure out how to make that the standard operating procedure for the health department, which is who I was technically employed by. I was employed by a private company, but the health department had contracted with that company to have somebody come in and do that work. So I
Wow.
found myself at this really interesting intersection of nobody ever being on the same page and having to figure out how to speak the language of all three of those parties. Also, figuring out how the systems even worked and why we were doing. I didn't have any contextual background knowledge,
Right,
and so it's just
right.
again a lot of bushwhacking through some craziness. That was what that looked like.
Well, and that's fascinating because we're going to segue into Sky Oro and the development and the birthing, but that really does give me some insight in the some of the exposure that you've had for working with different people, understanding everybody has different needs, different reservations, or hey, I have a question about that, how that's going to impact my job or whatever. But try to you're like a puzzle. It's a puzzle because essentially you're trying to find commonality,
Yeah.
but also using your listening to figure out, okay, she's going to have a problem with this and he's going to have a problem with that. But we ultimately have to work together to get to this one goal,
Yeah.
essentially. Really cool experience. They threw you in the fire to figure it out. But look at the amount of wisdom and skills that you've gained to help other women as they're building their businesses. So I want to transition a little bit into the birth of Sky Oro. Talk to me a little bit about how did this concept come about? Can you give us a little bit of history there?
Yeah, and I love to tell this story because it is the thesis of Sky Oro proven in how Sky Oro came to be, which is having space to people to talk to broaden your perspective, having space to lean into for resources, and finding partnership, because often so much of what we want to do, we were not designed to do any of this alone. And that fact is true for Sky Oro. Had I not partnered with my founding partner, Sky Oro would not be here. And it's as simple as that. So in this job, the company was based in Phoenix, and they were a public health informatics company. And their founder, who in the time I was like, this man is off his rocker. He is crazy. I don't understand. And now as a founder, I'm like, that guy is a freaking genius. Kudos to him. He sold the company. I'm like beyond impressed. But they went through this transition where we were just like in this your typical office space of like high risers separating all of the systems engineers and just really blah. And he was like, no, we are innovators in public health. We are changing our identity. We are going to do this. And he hard pushed for a big culture shift, and like really change in our company. And to do that, he renovated this old office space that was in like on the wrong side of the tracks downtown Phoenix. And the company had been based in Scottsdale. So during that transition, our software engineers were working out of a collaborative workspace that I just happened to get to go. I don't even know why I was with their manager. I went to Phoenix for my quarterly trip, and he was like, let's go. I want to show you this. And so I was like, okay, cool. I walked in, big, expansive, open space, beer on tap, teams in all sorts of corners, like having conversations. And I was like, what is this place? This is crazy. Awesome. Yeah. Why don't I have something like this in Helena? Because in Helena, my experience was I would go to work at the health department. If you've been inside of a health department, especially in Helena, it is like so disheartening of a place to be. I would work there 3 days a week. And then 2 days a week, I would work from home in my apartment, like attic apartment. And it was just a massive shift from serving tables, bartending, being in grad school where I was surrounded by people who were way more intelligent than I and had like such different ways of approaching problem solving, and I could plug into them, right? And so this swirling effect of seeing this, and I was like, I need this because I'm starting to get really frustrated in my job. I'm starting to get really bored. I'm starting to wonder what else is out there. But if I had a place like this that I could plug into, that might be a game changer. So I went home, started doing some looking. Nothing like that exists in Helena. Talked to my brother who's an architect. I was like, dude, it's all about the experience when you walk in. We could build something like this. What do you think? And he sent me an article about The Wing, which was co-founded by a woman who like looked like me, right? She was young, she was ambitious, she had a mission and a vision, and she was going for it. And her focus was on women. And I was like, that's fascinating, like supporting women. Hell yeah. And that was, I didn't do a deep dive into the wing. Social media wasn't a huge thing for me. I just left it alone, but I was like, women, co-working space. What does that look like? And I was considering a move to Bozeman at that time. And because my partner and I were talking about buying a house, and I was able to work my job transition, so I was fully remote. And so I just was like, how do you build a business in Bozeman, Montana? Like basically Googled it, and the Blackstone Launchpad popped up. So a resource, an incredible resource that is located at MSU, and they happen to offer support to alumni, students, faculty, et cetera. So I was like, okay, I'm an alumni. I'm going to leverage this, set an appointment, word vomited my idea all over Trevor and his student intern the first time I'd ever said it fully out loud, like fully baked. And they did what Trevor does best. He listened, and he was like, I have a woman that I think you should connect with. So he connected me to Lauren. Lauren had been in Bozeman and had been like hosting dinners for women building businesses for a couple of years now. And funny enough, on a previous visit to Bozeman to visit my boyfriend at the time, when I was in grad school, I had seen a flyer for one of her dinners. They were called the Boss Babe dinners. And I was like, no way, I get to connect with this gal. She's amazing. What she's built is so cool. And she was like, sure, I'll take a call with you. I'm getting my hair done. Like women do. We just fit it in. You can call me at this time. So we got on the phone. I word vomited my idea all over her. And she was like, there is another woman who has the same idea. She's inspired by the wing. She spent the last year trying to get this thing going in Bozeman. Let me connect you. And she actually didn't even connect me. She gave me her email address, and I just cold reached out to her. And I was like, in the spirit of women supporting women, would you be open to connecting? And Christina was like, sure, why not? And so her and I sit down, have an hour-long conversation. She shares so openly with me. Here's what I've done. Here's what I'm excited about. Here's where I'm getting stuck. Here's everything I have. And I was like, okay, I've had this idea for 3 months. You've been working on it for over a year. I just found out I'm pregnant. I don't live in Bozeman quite yet, but I'm coming. And would you like to do this together? And again, she was like, sure, why not?
Oh, I love that.
And yeah, she was just like, I'm getting stuck. Here are the places I'm getting stuck. If you're excited, and if you're energized, and this is why Sky Oro works. When women have an idea and somebody else is interested in supporting them and helping them make it happen, that is the game changer. That is 100% going to be the difference maker. If we have ideas and nobody shows interest or excitement, and we're maybe somewhere, I don't quite know what this would look like, it is so easy to just be like, it's not the thing. Like it feels too big. It feels too much. So anyway, she says, sure. And that was in September, we ended up launching the following April. So over those next few months, we wandered around like, how are we going to launch this? What is it going to look like? We landed on a crowd fund. We mapped out what it was going to look like. And here's where I never would have gotten to mapping all of that out. She was so dialed into that. It never would have happened with me. Yes. It just wouldn't have. And it would have died right there. But she was like, here's what we're going to do. She was a planner. That's her thing. And she is a planner. So we got to agreeing on how we were going to do it. And we were like, we're going to put it to the women who are here, who have already showed interest in Christina and her vision for the past year. And we're just going to see what happens. And literally the rest is history. We launched it on April 30th of 2019. And by June 6th, we closed it with 233 founding members. We had raised just at the $250,000 mark. And then we got to work with building the space out and making sure everything was set to open in the fall of 2019.
Let me just pause on that. Holy buckets. Holy freaking buckets. That's insanity. 2019. So just a bit before that, the connections, you hit the nail on the head. Connections are critical.
Yeah.
And I tell women all the time, I'm like, you have to get out there. You have to put yourself out there. You have to talk about your idea. You have to get in front of people that they have the same idea and they can bounce, but maybe they're a little different in regards to how they approach things. You just said that she was a planner. If you're a visionary person, you're creative, you need a planner. You need somebody to bounce that idea off of, because then it can actually come from a concept and then it goes into creation mode, which is really cool. And all the stars aligned, got you in front of the right people that believed in you. You rallied those people, which is pretty amazing, Amanda. And then to transitioning into finding that person that had that pot of women, 233 women, you said, got right on board.
It took a lot, but they got on board.
That's amazing. So you're telling me within about, let's see here, April to when you launched was June of.
That's when we closed it. It was 6 weeks of having the launch open.
6 weeks.
Yeah.
And $250,000 was money that was raised.
Yeah.
Unfreaking real. So anybody that's listening, let me just say this. It's possible.
Yeah.
It's possible, but there is a recipe to it.
Yeah.
And what would you say? I have my ideas what the recipe is, but I want you to reiterate for those women that are listening and men that are listening. They're like, okay, I have this great concept. What is the recipe?
So first, like without a doubt, the accountability of having that co-founder. So I would have abandoned ship, right? Like before I even got the thing launched, because it just wasn't my zone of genius. And whether you have a partner or not, having somebody who's like going to hold you accountable. And if they're not their partner, you're going to come together with them on a consistent basis and you're going to figure out what you need and find the resources. So that was the first thing. The second thing is that all of we talked to women who talked to women who talked to women who talked to women. We weren't afraid to shout about it, but we were also like fully bought in, right? We put together a team of people who were going to support us if we made it. So we made partnerships early on. Heather from Whole and Nourished was going to provide granola. So that's going to be a snack that you have when you come in. We're going to partner with Natalie and the gals at Treeline to make sure that we have delicious coffee. We are going to partner with the gals at Envy who helped us design out the space. Here's what the space is going to look like. And then it was a community build for something at this level, but regardless of how big it's being built, people matter, their input matters, and their resources matter for the long run, right? So in that crowdfund, we hosted over, I think, 10 to 12 events that were showcasing women that we wanted to be in the community and their businesses. So it wasn't even just about us. It was like, what does this mean for the women who are going to be involved? So we had women who are website experts, women who are sales and marketing experts, women who can help you get on corporate boards, women who can take you through your customer journey. And we hosted workshops. And we were like, here are the caliber of humans you're going to be part of. So I'm speaking to building a community, but I'll come back to the accountability, having a community around you, because you're going to need to lean into them and being willing to say, can you help me do this? Because those women who talk to women, first of all, we had a get shit done crew. So that was 6 women who were super stoked about what we were doing. And we had a list of here are potential prospects. And all of those women, from a place of generosity, not expecting more, we're like, okay, I know her, I'm going to reach out to her. I know her, I'm going to reach out to her. This is why I'm investing in this, and this is what it means for me. And they were so helpful. And again, the accountability part of it, because not only do you have to build it, you have to market it and you have to sell it. And those are all different things. And so it just takes resource, time, energy, encouragement, recommitment. So that's kind of a ramble of the recipe for how we did it, but it was community built from the beginning. There was accountability, there was resource, there was rallying, and being willing to ask and just put our vision out there. I would say delusional dedication, which we haven't really talked about this yet, but my son Jones was 1 month old when we launched it. So he was a newborn. So he was on my boob while I was standing in front of the first room saying, this is what we want to do. He was at every event that we had. That was a big part of it. And I was on maternity leave. So I did have the time and space, but certainly not the hormonal balance. And I was just there's some delusion involved in building something. And you just have to be willing to somewhat put your blinders on. Because
oh my God.
Everywhere you turn, there's going to be something trying to knock you off. That's why mission is
Yes.
important. And now 7 years later, I wake up every day engaged and so on fire for the mission, even if it's like the work I have to do right now is not the thing that lights me up. But I would never step away from this because I believe so fully in the mission and making this something that's a legacy. So if and when I ever wasn't at the helm of it, it's not going away because I'm not showing up for it.
Dang. Oh my gosh. Let me just say that. Dang. And so many pieces to what you said. So many pieces to what you said. First and foremost, let's give a shout out to the Get Shit Done crew. That is epic.
Yeah.
That's epic. But no, just to give the encouragement factor of what it does take, rallying, impactful people, being accountable, having a plan in play. And even sometimes that plan gets a little diverted, but still there's a plan, right? There's some direction there. The involvement and a little crazy. You got to be a little crazy because that's that fire, right? You feel that fire within you, what you just had mentioned. Beautiful, very cool takeaways there.
And I would be remiss if I didn't add this too. So many people said no. So many people were like, I don't really get it. That is just part of it in building a business. I have this conversation all the time. I am in my head about saying what I have to offer and what it is and how much it costs because we're so intimately connected to it. And I think the delusion and the fact that I had just pushed a human out of my body, like, the no's were not fun, of course, because we had this huge goal, but I do remember being like, why wouldn't you believe in this?
Yes.
Whatever. That person like doesn't matter if they don't get it.
Right. No, it's true though. They'll get it later and they'll be like,
Yeah.
I missed the opportunity or I missed the boat on that one. But to be a mom and to be able to do this and to get this done within 6 weeks is mind blowing. And there's a lot of things I do want to ask you because I ask a lot of women, why Sky Oro? What's the meaning behind the name?
The name was Christina, my co-founder. So she had named it before her and I ever met, but it's Sky, our big Sky state. Oro is on our state seal, Oro y Plata, silver and gold. And it's really an ode and paying homage to the women who came out west in the gold rush, didn't know what they were doing, what they were getting themselves into, but they weren't really deterred by that. They just made it work and figured out their path, and they were gritty and they were like, you wouldn't want to mess with one of those women. And so it's just like women can make amazing things happen, and let's celebrate that.
Oh my, that honestly, when you said that gave me chills because it almost was like in your birthright. Do you feel that? Do you feel like this was you, like for some way, the universe, God, whatever you believe in, this was meant for you in life?
I have all the things we can talk about how it came to be, but like the last 7 years, there is no reason why this business should still be alive. I show up for it, but it's always happened through me. And I believe very firmly that God put me on this planet to do work like this. And that's a huge part of why I'm able to get up and continue doing it, because it's not me powering it. I'm on fire for it and lit up, but I could also still sleep, like at this point, lay in a hammock for 6 months and not move.
Yes, we all need a little bit of just a step away for a moment, but then that gives us a clear mind to get back to it.
Yeah.
And not stop doing what we love to do and the passion that's within us. So really freaking cool. I do want to ask you, I think you really did give some great business focus, things to think about. I do want to ask you as a mom, how do you balance it all? Clearly it was like a whirlwind going through the process of birthing, not just your business, but birthing children. And you've got 2 little boys and ages 7 and 4, right? But how do you balance running this business and balancing motherhood with 2 little human beings running around in Montana?
Yeah, I think I have the advantage of, first of all, I didn't know what I was getting myself into. Had I known, who knows what would look different. But from the get-go, it's been around me being a mom, right? Like I have a child. He's in his car seat coming with me. I have to breastfeed him. I'm leaking in a meeting, like all of those things. It's just, I've learned how to just adapt with kiddo in tow. And I just knew so my re-entry into my corporate job after maternity leave this was like a month old. or that we had not yet built this space. So I went back to work and I still had my mind on this and the things that needed to happen here. And I had my son and I had a really tough time. My company was not supportive of me having my kiddo with me as a remote employee. I got a lot of backlash and not a lot of support when, as I openly shared, like, here are the struggles I'm having. People aren't reliable. Like, I'm not comfortable putting my child in daycare when he's 3 months old, like all of those things. And I got sidelined at my job and it was really frustrating. And at the same time, I was like, that's not cool. And I'm so excited about what this is. So I was navigating all of that. Ultimately, when I got pregnant with my second son, I was like, I am never going, like, I just got it figured out with daycare and this kid. I do not want to go through that again with this job. But I also, that was in 2020. I was like, this thing goes. We just hit a pandemic, but there was so much there. And I decided to step away from my job and go fully in on this, which then meant that I was building this around being a mom of one and a mom to be of two. And so I just made it work. Like, I'd bring my child to school to work with me when I needed to. And then I started playing around with, what does it look like to ask for support with the people that I do have to support me in my maternity leave, and falling all over myself, failing delegation and all of that. Delegation is not something that just happens. Delegation is a journey, especially when you build something from the inside of you out. And there is no shame in how freaking hard it is and like how many times I fell on my face doing it. So just always built it around my kiddos, but it also helped me identify, okay, of the things that, like, I can put systems in place that allow me to step away. Also, the nature of it is that events are not happening all day, every day. It's a physical space where people come, and there is some technology. So I just immediately was like, okay, how can I support when somebody joins so it doesn't require me to be on all, like, immediately right away? So how do I make that a system? I have an amazing team of women who trade their time at my front desk. So how can I make sure that they know everything they need to know so I don't physically have to be at the space? It's a non-negotiable for me to go pick my children up at 2:30. So if I have to come back to Sky Oro, which is a 25-minute drive after I pick my kids up because I don't have anybody to close it, I will do that. So it's like, I take radical responsibility for the care of the space and the taking care of the space where nobody else is available to, but I also have a team that helps. And I just have learned the power of coordination with their dad to be like, here's when I have events and here's what needs to happen. And I need you to have them, and not be apologetic and saying, I need you to support this so that I can make this happen. Which that in itself has been a journey too, of just like, the amount that I'm able to contribute to our household is less than what he does. And I feel like all the kids' care has had to be on me, but I've had to navigate that too, of actually that's very valuable. And so it is good for me to say, you need to take them. And so there's a lot there too, but I would say
that's partnership. It's partnership, right?
Yeah.
And you invested in a partner, and that's what needs to happen, right?
Yeah.
Wow. Continue with what you were saying.
I was just to say I wouldn't say that there's balance for me, because I never feel that, but I do consistently check in with, okay, what system isn't working? Where can I make this a little bit better? What needs to shift? Where do I want to be spending my time now? What are the levers or the needles that need to move? And thankfully, this age, my kids, it's much more predictable where they'll be in terms of their school, where daycare and early childcare is not as predictable as like preschool and kindergarten and first grade.
No, yeah. And it evolves as you go. But I want to say this. It's got me thinking to say the balance of motherhood and work life is bullshit. It's calibration. You just basically said, you corrected me, and thank you for doing that. We have to learn to calibrate, which is the checks and balance system of what's working, what's not working. I love that you said, you got to give yourself grace. We all have to give ourselves grace. We don't have it all figured out. It's never going to be perfect. Delegation matters. You need to understand with that delegation, what do you need? What are non-negotiables in play? And I love the fact that you surround yourself with a team and you have a partner that you can coordinate life with. That's absolutely beautiful. And you're doing it, and you're building something meaningful in this area for women, by women. It sounds like to me, you've got a lot of buy-in. Again, that rallying piece that in this life, God blessed you with that. And that's wonderful. It's a wonderful thing. I hope you sit back some days when you do get a chance to go on vacation and in Cancun or wherever the heck you like to vacation on, in Dubai or whatever, you sit back and go, man, this reflection piece, I got a sweet zone going on. I've got a good setup. I've got a good thing happening. I am creating legacy. I hope you do that for yourself.
Thank
I really
you. Well,
do.
I appreciate your reflection of the rallying piece, because as we do, I often question my ability to lead what this looks like at the next level. But leading is rallying in a very strategic way.
It truly is.
So you've actually been doing this for a really long time.
You have been. And it's 7 years that's a big deal. You're getting there. Not that you're there. And
Yeah.
I often talk with women, they're like in the 2-year mark. I'm a 2-year. And then you hit that sweet branding mark at 3 to 4 years. Montana's a very interesting business culture. But if you get to 7 to 8 years, you're moving and shaking, man. You've got a real solid network happening, right? Yeah. But I want to ask you, as far as building something in Montana that really is uniquely different. It's very uniquely different. And you talked a lot about the community support and creating an intentional space. What does that look like? And what would people expect if they were to join or come visit Sky Oro? What's some of the things that you would want to allude them to and bring it to their awareness?
Yeah, so I'll talk about this from like our activation framework, if you will, because
yes,
building a community and building a membership, yes, it's about the people, but it's also about activation and retention, and for it to be profitable. I'm constantly balancing, okay, the profitability and the systems with the human beings, and never at the expense of the human experience. So when people walk in, I train my team, like everybody gets met with eye contact, right? And if you know their name, use their name. And if you don't, ask them what their name is, because they matter here. Doesn't matter what their day was like. It doesn't matter how beat up they are by their kids or by life or whatever. When they walk in, this is a space for them. And too often we are not even acknowledged by our names, right? Because most people don't know, or they forgot, or whatever. Fine. But here, everybody who comes in deserves and will be welcomed with a hi, how are you? You belong here. How can I support you? And so that's like non-negotiable number one thing that my team is trained on, and that I say, this is my expectation. Secondly, when you physically walk into the space, it has been blessed. There are plants. Before we opened, one of our members came in and she put crystals in the floor before the cement was poured. And so there are like blessings beyond blessings in this space, and you feel it. You walk in and it's just, I've arrived. Like our door says you have arrived, because you have. And one of the things that I never really knew was very organically has come about is like, women say, I don't feel like I have to show up here and put a face on. I don't have to show up here and have a mask on or have it all figured out. I can actually just leave my shit at the door and come and sit and be, and to whatever degree I feel comfortable, be real about what's going on. There is no posturing here. If you want to come in your yoga pants, if you can bust your workout and you're comfortable, come as you are. And so those are like the main things that I know people feel when they walk in, but that our goal is to cultivate an experience that they feel that. And I love to think of Sky Oro as a canvas, and I watch it happen in women's faces when they walk in and they look around, they orient themselves, and they're like, oh my gosh, what is this? Tell me more. And when I share whatever level of my story that I share, they're like, okay, I can do something too. And then their creativity starts to roll, and then they get excited about what they're talking about. And then of course I'm excited, or whoever they're talking to is excited, because that's what the women here do. And then all of a sudden this is possible. Okay, this is possible for me. Doesn't matter. It could be big. It could be small. It could be like I'm in the middle of transition and I don't even know which way is up, but here I feel like I can have a place where I belong. I can find my village of humans. And so it's very much about, you belong here. You're here right now. Your presence matters. You have something really powerful to contribute, whatever that is. And there are women here who want to pour into you. So it's the spirit of generosity and the spirit of curiosity versus judgment, self-judgment or judgment of others. Because the women here, like, they're immersed in what they're doing and they don't want to be alone, which means that they want other people to do it with, which means that they're going to be curious about what that person is doing, not in the space of judgment. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, that's the way when I walked. So for those that are listening, I physically have been to this space. I sought it out when I went to go visit my son down at MSU, and I was like, I have to go check this out. I got to see what she's built. And you're right. Right when you walk in, I did a video montage of it. There's a sign that it says, does it say "Come as you are"?
You have arrived.
Oh, you have arrived. That's right. You have arrived. And right when you walk, I'm giving you all a visualization. When you walk in, it's this magical window door you can see inside from outside. And right in front of you, absolutely, there is a greeter. And what was her name again?
Jesslyn.
I was going to say Jessica. And she literally physically gets up from her seat and comes over and introduces herself to you. I remember her getting up and going, "Hi, what's your name? I'm Julie." And I walked right in. She was extremely welcoming, for sure eye contact. Said, "Nice to meet you, Julie. I'm Jesslyn." So connected. Let me take you around the space. Do you want to check out the space on your own? Gives me the options. And it's a beautiful open space, but you do have rooms where you can go to if you have meetings or if you want some quiet space to sit down and reflect or take a meeting. A great little open space for coffee, sitting down, sharing maybe lunch with somebody. And then let me just point this little feature out because I want to share this. One of the things that struck to me, and I love the little details that you said, that when you developed the space, you put crystals in the flooring. And I love those details. Those are things that are like, oh, why did they do that? Why did they design it that way? Why are there so many plants? The bookshelves with all the books, but all the different varieties of books that you can see along this really long wall where a woman was sitting and working independently. But what I do love is the comfiness of the couches, the invitingness of the couch, the blankets, little spaces where you can sit and chat. And then this one big, beautiful window, but it's like a big open, it's one of those windows that opens all the way across wall length that opens up into this little outdoor space where you can go outside and sit and get some sun. And it's very inviting. The colors are warm. The palette is warm. There's a lot of organicness, which to me feels like organic flow. Yeah. So it's very intentional. It's a very intentional space. So if you are listening in and you're over in the Bozeman area and you want to get curious and you want to know what Sky Oro is and what it's about, go visit it. Go get a tour. You will experience exactly that and exactly what Amanda and her team created for women. So I thank you so much for sharing. I love that little tiny piece. We bless a space with crystals. I love that. Thank you for sharing that. That's really special for me. So I want to transition a little bit into your vision and expansion. Is there opportunities to expand across the state? Will Sky Oro show up in cities like Whitefish or Kalispell or Helena? Talk to me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so my vision is that Sky Oro has physical spaces across the state, but ultimately that Sky Oro is a very activated network for women across the entire state, and that we have found a pathway that helps women find as powerful of connection in an online way for those in the far corners of our very vast state, but then also have the ability to drop into places that are around the state. And I feel very strongly about the way that we built it and how powerful it was, because we built it from the ground up, from the community up. And people are like, are you going to franchise it? Are you going to whatever, license it, whatever? And so I'm still working on what feels like the best model. But ultimately, I know that what I don't want to do is say, I'm going to open a Sky Oro in Billings and go over there and do it. I want to very intentionally source the women in each community who want to put their emotional and energetic capital into this and partner with me to bring it to life, because they know what their communities want. Billings is a very different place than Bozeman. Helena is a very different place than Bozeman, business-wise, energetically, all of those things. And so I am under no pretense that I understand what that looks like in each of these communities across the state, because I don't. But women there do, and women want to build things. And I get asked on a monthly basis, when is this coming to this city? When is this coming to this city? When is it coming here? And right now my focus is, okay, are the systems scalable? Are they repeatable? Can I take the IP of Sky Oro and give that to support the build of something in a different town and in a way that market is looking for? So I know how to crowdfund it. I've been doing the marketing. I've been doing the engagement. I've been doing the tech platforms, doing like all of that. I can support in that way, but I want to find the woman or couple of women, honestly, who want to champion it in their community. And then I lease my space here in Bozeman, and I don't have the option to buy it just because of the property that it's on, but that is not how I would do it in other places. So I also see a really exciting opportunity for like women to invest in real estate to bring something like this to life. So that feels like an exciting way for me to be moving forward. So yeah, ultimate vision is that women across the state are connected, and women in each market, I find the right women in each market to help build it in a way that meets the needs of that community. And we go from there. I've had women from across the country say what you just said. This is different than anything I've ever seen. And so it is exciting to think about, okay, could this be a model that could be repeated in other rural states even, because it's just so community focused on like it's like small town feel, although Bozeman doesn't really have small town feel so much anymore, but
Yeah.
it's still about relationships. It's still about connection. And when you live in a rural state, you want to be connected to the people who are across that state, because you don't have a million people directly surrounding you. Like your resource is in pockets around the geographic area.
That's super exciting, Amanda.
Yes.
I'm going to cross my fingers and hope something happens up in the Northwest. Bring it here in some way, whatever way I can do to help facilitate that.
Yeah.
You guys are amazing. And I thank you so much for sharing kind of some thoughts from the founding woman, which I love to hear. My next question is, when you look back at what you're building, not just the space, but the impact, what do you hope women say Sky Oro gave them? And let me repeat that again. What do you hope women say Sky Oro gave them that they couldn't find anywhere else?
It's already being said, and it makes all of it so worth it, is when women come and they are looking for a place where they can find their place. Whether they're new to Bozeman or they've been here for a really long time and they're wanting to finally put roots down because their life has just kept them so busy that there's a lot here, but they don't have their space. Those women come and they're like, I didn't think it was possible to find a place, a community of women who was so supportive that would let me just be in the raw stumbling around of finding clarity, because there is very little that feels as good as I have some real clarity around the direction that I want to go with this. Because we often have ideas and we have some level of knowing, but we don't give ourselves the permission, and rarely are we invited to really dig into what that is. And even the simple fact, I had one woman share this a few days ago. She was like, I love that every time I come to an event, I am asked a question of who am I? Where am I putting my energy? What is my time going to? Because my answer varies differently. It varies a little bit, but I've never felt so solid in what I'm doing and without the whiplash, right? Of I want to do this, but then I have this conversation and it kind of ungrounds me. And then I'm thinking maybe I go this direction, but me coming and being in my truth and sharing where I am has helped me just feel very grounded and rooted in what I want to move forward with. Of course, there are going to be those days when I am questioning how I'm going to do it or whatever, but my direction feels solid. And there is a lot of energy that we waste and that we lose in going back and forth. So I want women, and I know that it feels so good, is when women say space to just be witnessed in where it is that I want to go so that I can say it out loud, reflect on it, get feedback, and continue on. And it matters to people that I'm here. Like Jesslyn noticed that she hadn't seen me in a few weeks. And so the fact that she said something like, oh, I've been missing you. I matter, right? I matter to this community. Me showing up contributes, or me not being there leaves a gap. And so for women to know that no matter what it is that they're wanting to contribute, it matters it's like a critical human need that social media and the way society is right now doesn't meet, because it's so easy to get lost in the sea. So easy to get lost in the massive onslaught of content and of ideas and of promotion and all of that. But as a human, you walk into a door and you matter, that you're there, that makes a difference in a woman's life.
Oh,
And for that to be consistent, repeated, then that changes so much.
oh, I love that. I love that. All right, Amanda, we're down to our last two questions. The first question is, hold on, I got to get my eyes on it. If Amanda then walked into Sky Oro today, what do you think, like the Amanda in the past, the Amanda that rallied, had fun, and was trying to figure out her thing in life, right? What do you think would surprise her the most, and what would she be most proud of?
I think what would surprise her the most is you've been here for 7 years. Like, you stuck to this for 7 years.
That's awesome.
And you have 2 kids. Whoa. But what she would be most proud of is that I kept showing up when it would have been so easy to just not. To say, there's a pandemic. Nobody can come into this space. I'll figure out how to refund you your money. Or 30% of my members renewed because it's a pandemic. Like, you continued to show up, Amanda. That's pretty freaking cool.
Yeah, you pushed through those challenges. Yeah. That's amazing. That's awesome. Yeah, that tenacity, that Montana grit, that spirit, that resilience, that I'm going to bootstrap, I'm going to do this. You've got it. It's within you. You're rooted in it. But that's just who you are. You're going to rally. You're going to make it happen. You're going to make things happen because you have the right people surrounding you that is seeing the vision, right? You're exploding with vision and ideas and all the things. But I love that about you, Amanda. You've got a really unique aura around you that is helping inspire others, right? That feeds your soul. Truly, do you feel that way?
I think the thing that feeds my soul is like the human interaction on a daily basis of, we get to have a conversation right now about what's really hard right now. And I don't as often think about it being an inspiration. So I do appreciate that feedback. I do think about the impact that it has when the power in having space where I know I can be like, this is really hard for me right now. And I'm not really willing to admit that to many people. I know that impact is far reaching on our nervous systems, on our relationship, on our ability to show up for work that day. Yeah.
Yeah, no, having those hard conversations and letting the guard down and being like, I just need you to hear me. We need those people. Yeah. Because life is hard. We're not like waking up every day and skipping. It's not like that. And running businesses and running our families and just trying to be a good mommy, being a good best friend, being a good leader, and that pressure that we put on ourselves. Yes, you need the space to say, today sucks. And I need a space where I can talk about that. Yeah, that's wonderful.
Before we pass the mic, we want to pause and recognize the businesses that make this space possible. Pass the Mic sponsorship on the IWD406 podcast is more than advertising. It's a commitment to Montana women supporting Montana women. As a Pass the Mic sponsor, we create a custom audio commercial for your brand, giving you triple exposure on the podcast, across our digital platforms, and on YouTube, all as evergreen content that lives long beyond a single episode. Right now, businesses can receive 12 podcast episodes for the price of one. If you believe in honoring Montana women's history, amplifying their stories, and supporting a platform that truly invests back into the community, we love to work with you. Contact IWD406 today at www.iwd406.com. And now, let's pass the mic.
Our last question is an important question to our podcast. It's called Pass the Mic. So it's a special segment. We believe in amplifying the voices of remarkable women. If you could pass the mic to a Montana woman to share their story on the IWD406 podcast, who would she be and why?
I'm passing it to my girl, Sue Kerber. Sue is a delight in my life, and she recently wrote a book on courage and leadership, and she featured conversations that she had with 50 women from across the country around their experiences with perseverance and the things that they're building, the things that are lighting them up. And amongst all of that, I have been so honored to be alongside her as she has really dove into what lights her up and has leaned fully into the discomfort of the growth required to build a book or to write a book and reflect on all of those things. Many things not happy, not traumatic, and easy to just let them stay buried in our bodies. And she continually inspires me with her willingness to just elevate herself and make really hard decisions about things that maybe she could just stay comfortable with. And we are actually celebrating the launch of her book, The Starfish Chronicles, on May 30th here at Sky Oro. So we are having a book launch party, and then it releases at the beginning of June. And so she invited me onto her podcast. She graciously elevated the stories and the voices of 50 women across the country, and she deserves hers elevated to the frickin' moon with all those astronauts up there right now.
Oh, that's amazing. Okay, so her book launch is on May 30th. And you're going to have an event at Sky Oro in Bozeman. Where can people go to learn about your events and what's coming and how they can maybe sign up for membership?
Yeah, so they can just go to our website. It's Sky Oro, SKYORO.club. And from there, they can learn about our membership. They can see our upcoming events. They can join our newsletter, which is a great way to just get a bit more immersed in the story of Sky Oro and then find out what is coming up, because I'm always emailing our list about events and opportunities and resources and things like that. So that would be the most sure path to getting involved with Sky Oro.
Perfect. I love that. I just want to say your blessing and thank you so much, Amanda. You really have created something very unique for women in Bozeman, but it filters out beyond that. It impacts, people are talking about it, and then people went to one of your events and maybe they traveled for it. So it's spreading across Montana, and you're a legacy. You truly are a legacy. Keep doing what you're doing, and thank you so much for creating something like this for Montana women.
Like I said at the beginning, I think it's the honor of my life to do this work. I wouldn't rather struggle and be challenged by anything else.
Yes.
Other than motherhood. Whew. So,
yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
A special thank you to our podcast guest. You can find all of her links in the description of this episode. If you like what you heard, please hit subscribe. You will be notified of future podcast guests. Follow us on our social media platforms and stay tuned for our next podcast chat with an amazing Montana woman.